there's been a great response to LarClean laundry detergent, and they have other cleaning supplies too. It's been awesome. This is great stuff. It's all natural. For those that have the time and the energy and the focus, you can look and see what the traditional, let's say you get the bulk at Costco and it might come in a reddish, orangish container, and everybody's been using it for years. You might want to check in to see what those ingredients do to us and look at a more natural way. And this is a Utah company, husband and wife run this. I'll put a link in the comment section. I'll pin it where you can go and check it out and get a discount. But they have other products. I was going to demonstrate them and show them to you. I do the laundry and vacuuming, not like exclusively, but those are things I can focus on. Laundry and vacuuming. I'm not very good at all at details like dusting and cleaning off counters, and I don't know. It's kind of like yard work. I like to do the lawn mowing, trimming. I can do weeding to some degree if it's dandelions here and there, but the stuff that really makes it look nice, that's Sue does that. I can't. I don't know. I could. I just don't like it, I guess. But we got our garden basically planted. Our greenhouse is full of all kinds of stuff. Here's a thing I figured out. So we get these big jars of honey. That's not cheap, but it's local here where we are, but it solidifies not super fast, but fairly fast. And I found you stick that out in the greenhouse, bring it in at night, put it out in the greenhouse, even when it's like today, I think it's probably 60 degrees, but in the greenhouse, it's like 90. Or you put that honey out there and it just gets nice and soft and usable. Okay, wasn't planning on talking about that. Okay, now remember, I got a little grief over this. I got compared to Jared at the Christian Homestead, I think it's called. Jared. Great guy, great channel, does a lot of good work, but he does compare a lot of things and finds, numbers that are alike and they have meaning and all that kind of stuff. And so I got accused of that when I said 4 verses into the Book of Mormon, we have mention of the destruction of Jerusalem. And then the fourth to the last verse in the Book of Mormon is the redemption of Jerusalem. In Moroni 10. It's pretty cool, and hardly anybody commented on that. Everybody focused on the P word. So the P word could be a lot of different things, but on this channel it's probably, you could say either plural marriage or polygamy, but I get kind of a kick out of things, seeing things. So I have something for you guys to get mad at me over on the P word. And this is just something that's kind of interesting. So as you know, I don't believe Joseph Smith preached or practiced polygamy. In fact, I know for a fact publicly, and you know for a fact publicly, he preached against it. And so did Hiram. So the big question is, did he do it privately, and did he preach it and teach it and practice it privately? So that's the question. So I don't think he did. But Brigham Young, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow, Joseph F. Smith, I'm singing the song in my head, Joseph F. Smith, Heber J. Grant, and George Albert Smith. All of those guys, so is that 7? 7 of them were polygamists. the first one that wasn't a polygamist was David O. McKay. Now, some will say, well, when Heber J. Grant became prophet, his plural wives had died and he only had one wife. But that's not what I'm talking about. Were they polygamists in the true sense of the word, where they had more than one wife living at the same time? And from my research, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, but so Brigham Young, Latter-day Prophets are number one, Joseph Smith. Brigham Young, John Taylor is third, Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow, Joseph F. Smith, remember the Heber J. Grant, George Albert Smith. Yeah, 7. So they were all polygamists. And then David O. McKay comes along. Okay, so here's the here's the thing that hit me. And I know I'll get grief over this, but I think it's kind of funny. So, like I say, I don't believe Joseph Smith was a polygamist. We know David O. McKay wasn't a polygamist. What are those things? What do those two guys have in common that the other 7 don't? It's called facial hair or beards. So Joseph Smith didn't have a beard, and David O. McKay started the tradition of prophets and church leaders not having facial hair, beards, or mustaches, or the, I don't know what you called, like Wilford Woodruff and some of them had these kind of cool things. I don't know, but it's interesting, isn't it? Isn't it? So if David O. McKay was the prophet that really didn't practice it, didn't teach it, and he didn't have a beard, and Joseph Smith, in my opinion, didn't practice it, didn't teach it, and didn't have a beard. So there you go. I can't wait to hear the comments on that one. Oh, you guys are fun. Okay. Someone pointed me towards the Zion or Bust YouTube channel. They cover a lot of stuff, and they're preaching the gospel in their way, and good for them. Well, they were talking about the Davidic servant, and I've kind of covered this before, and I think Jared was brought up in it, that I guess Jared had Christian homestead. Jared had said that it's Jesus Christ. That's what the church, on the church website, the Davidic servant is Jesus Christ. I feel like it is too. I feel like he is the Davidic servant. Now the argument is how can you be the servant when there's several scriptures that refer to Christ having a servant. So how could you be a servant to yourself, kind of thing? And I think that's a legitimate point. And what my thoughts aren't really, like I could be swayed either way. So I'm not as strong as I am about the New Jerusalem and about the P word on this. But one of the I didn't watch all of it, but I just didn't have time yet. But on the Zion media, they had a young man on. He had these cool sunglasses, and he's really good. He covered it very well, and smart young man. But he brought up Ezekiel 37, and this is where I would differ, but I want to explain why. Because it does mention the Davidic servant there. Of course, the Isaiah Institute, I think you pronounce his name Avraham Gileadi, or Avraham Gileadi. So I've listened to him. I've read one of his books, not totally all the way through, but a lot of it. And brilliant professor mind, and covers the Davidic servant very well. And so, like I say, I'm open, and I'd love to hear in your comments who you think the Davidic servant is, because it does have to do with the second coming of Jesus Christ, preparation for that. And there's this is what we do on this channel quite often, is we're watchers or cows, community of watchers, where we are looking for the signs of the times. That's what we're commanded to do by the Lord. But listen to this. So we have the Ezekiel 38 and 39, the wars that we all talk about, and could it be happening? Incidentally, a little side note, Israel, we had the fires, right? We had some terrorist attacks in Israel. And the fires were arson, and they were radical, I don't know if you want to call them radical, but Palestinians who just want to destroy. Did you know that Israel has the largest man-planted forests in the world? The largest. The Romans devastated Israel. And the vegetation, the trees, everything was basically gone. Prophesied in Matthew 24 and Doctrine and Covenants 45, and as well as the Matthew in the Pearl of Great Price, the Joseph Smith. This is what was prophesied would happen, and it would be the worst destruction of Israel, and it was the land of Israel and Jerusalem specifically. But Israel, because it is the promised land, and we have the promise in the Book of Mormon that it will be redeemed, and Jerusalem, and it'll flourish again, and that's happening. We're seeing that. Well, the Jews that have moved in and rebuild, they plant thousands and thousands of trees, and now they have a forest that's the largest man-planted I think that's probably the best way to say it, forest in the whole world. Think of that. But this forest fire that was, I believe it was just west of Jerusalem in the hill country there, the Judean hill country there, just thousands of acres burned. It's just sick. And then the Houthis in Yemen sent a missile, and it hit an orange grove right by the Ben Gurion airport, and they had to shut that down. So, this tiny little country the size of the state of New Jersey is having to defend itself, and so then they go and bomb the heck out of Yemen. It's just crazy, all this stuff. But it happens, and it's prophesied. So we just read our scriptures, and it's like yeah, this is the way things are going. But let's get back to the Davidic servant here. I'm going to go to Ezekiel 37. But right before the wars that are going to happen, we go to Ezekiel 37, and this will be very familiar to all Latter-day Saints. I'm going to start in verse 15 of 37. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick, and write upon it for Judah, and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. One in thine hand. Okay? And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? So here's the meaning. Say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall And this is so cool. And one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided unto two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them, so that they shall be my people, and I will be their God. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Now, I could go on this, but I just want to, I covered a lot of verses there. And so now we need to go back a little bit. And so we have these sticks. Now, I took this course with One for Israel online course, and they're Messianic Jews, so they're very familiar with they're raised Jewish. They know their scriptures. They understand all of it. I think far better than many of us do. And then you add the Christian element to that, where they recognize Jesus was and is the Messiah. Then that that just gives more meaning to everything. So they understand the prophecies of the Old Testament concerning the Messiah and Christ, and how Christ fulfilled that. They're probably the best at that, because they have both sides so represented in their studies. So when I took the course, we actually covered these verses here, and this is their interpretation. I'm not saying ours is wrong. I think it's right, but I think there's multiple layers of interpretation on these sticks. So the way they look at it is, a stick is a staff, and a staff would be held by the leader of the kingdom or the tribe, and would have the writing on the staff of their authority, whose tribe they belong to, and the leader would hold that staff or that stick and write upon it their authority. And then the other one would. And then they become one in thine hand. Now this gets to now my theory on this. Let me back up just a little bit and go to verse 10 in Ezekiel 37, because this will tie in. This is what I mean by different levels of meaning. So, in my opinion, what we read is the first meaning, and then we have the other layers that would apply to us, perhaps. So let me read verse 10 in Ezekiel 37. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them. These are the dry bones, right? And they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am the Lord when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. And shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall you know that I, the Lord, have spoken it and performed it, saith the Lord. Now, we look at that and always just think of resurrection. And that's the meaning. But what does it say? It's a people that are going to be resurrected. And this is exactly what's happened. No one would have ever, it's never happened in the history of written history where a people have been so decimated, scattered, destroyed, everything. The language, somehow Hebrew was preserved, the traditions preserved. And, I think a lot of this the way that the Jews have preserved is through their rituals. I think that's what really did it. We need to really hang on to rituals, temple, sacrament, these rituals. And I know that word kind of bothers members of the church, but in my opinion, the rituals is what sustained the Jewish people. And through those rituals, the Lord has breathed life back into them. So this meaning has to do with the house of Israel coming back, being resurrected in their land. And then we continue to read the ones I just read about the sticks saying the same thing, right? And that they're going to come together and there's going to be one king. Well, you have the northern kingdom, which is represented by Ephraim, Joseph the son, and then Joseph's son Ephraim, and the southern kingdom is Judah. And they'll become one. The staffs or the leadership of both kingdoms, if you will become one. Well, who's going to unite the kingdom? The kingdoms, I should say. Who's going to unite them? Who's going to be the king of both kingdoms? Jesus. Jesus is the Davidic servant. He's the one that will unite. Now, here's some other evidence of that. I've talked about this book before, but I'm holding it up here. It's by David C. Mitchell. And he's not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's a scholar, lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. And this book is called Messiah ben Joseph. And this is a fascinating book. In fact, this was going to be part of my, I was going to do a presentation for the Zarahemla Foundation, Zarahemla Conference. And I was going to do it on this lineage of Jesus Christ. But I've got to have this knee surgery and I can't pull it off. I think I'll be too late up to do that conference. So I kind of put this on the back burner, but eventually I'll be doing a presentation, a PowerPoint on this. So the theory and the evidence is so strong that Christ had both the blood of Judah, David, and Joseph through Ephraim. How cool is that? And I have a lot of notes and stuff in addition to what I got out of this book that's so interesting where, I mean, we can read, I think it's in Samuel, First Samuel, where it talks about a group from the northern kingdom that were Ephraimites that went and settled into Bethlehem. and it's just, there's just so many interesting things. Another thought is that Galilee, the Galilee region where Christ began his ministry, is in the northern kingdom, right? Where the northern kingdom was. And there's strong evidence, and it is in David C. Mitchell's book, that a group of Ephraimites, speaking of Ephraimites, we say Ephraimites or Ephraim, but every time I've brought it up in Israel, the land of Israel, they'll say Ephraim. So I started saying Ephraim, and today I was doing initiatory work, I guess we call it, and one of the guys' names was Ephraim, and I said Ephraim, and the guy corrected me and said, it's Ephraim. I said, okay, Ephraim. Anyway, it's kind of funny. Anyway, so you have the northern kingdom scattered 7-something BC by the Assyrians. Well, some of them came back, is what the story or the evidence, the historical tradition is it came back to the Galilee region. And David C. Mitchell's theory, and pretty good evidence, I think, from reading his book and the documentation, is that the apostles were probably not from the tribe of Judah, but were Ephraimites. Now think of that, or Ephraimites. Because think of that. When Christ tells his apostles, go ye into all the world, teaching repentance and baptism, that's the calling of Ephraim. And that's the time of the Gentile, was right after Peter had his dream, is when many people feel the time of the Gentile started, and that it's now winding way down, and it's time for Judah to rise up. But if this is the case, this changes everything, because there's only one person that would unite that, and that's the Messiah. And he would have both the blood of Joseph with Ephraim, son of Joseph, and then Judah through David, the king that united the kingdoms. So he's a David type figure in uniting the kingdoms. So this is all really fascinating stuff, but I think sometimes we just take for granted, oh, this means resurrection, that's it. Doesn't mean anything else. Well, no, it means the restoring of the house of Israel as well. And that's what the meaning, as you read it. And then you can go, oh, that's like resurrected bodies. And then you can look at the staffs and you can go, oh, it's the Bible and the Book of Mormon. True. It is. I don't argue that. But it also is uniting two kingdoms. It says so. It says in the scriptures that's what it is. It's not just two books becoming one in thy hand as a witness of Christ. It's uniting the northern and the southern kingdom. It's right there. It's right there. I'm going to read verse 25 now. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, and they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. On the Temple Mount, the temple, where Christ will rule and reign and be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoy it. I love studying this stuff. I love bringing it up. Most of you guys are pretty good-natured. Some of you get a bit nasty. Let's not make it so nasty just because we don't have the exact same understanding of whether it's church history or something else. That's not the purpose of this channel. It's not my focus. But I do have an opinion, and I can share it, and hopefully we can be respectful. And for the most part, everybody is. It's just the few that kind of spoil it. Anyway, God bless. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.